All right, so we covered solid granny squares in class this week. They start exactly like the clustered granny square we did before. So you're going to start with this. You may not start in the same space as me. You use the same technique. All you have to remember is what goes in the corners, and everything else is worked into stitches. So you start with your chains. The pattern I gave called for a chain 4, just like everything else I have shown you. You can chain as much or as little as you're comfortable with, whatever works for you. So you start, I'm going to be working into these stitches, and on your first row, you're going to work into 2 stitches because you're like everything else, your chain is your first double crochet. So we're going to work into this portion here, and it's going to come out through here, yarn over, and it's just double crochets. There's no new stitches this week. There's 1 and there's 2. So now we're at a corner, and the corners are slightly different than the corners you worked in our last square. You're going to double crochet 2. And then you're going to do your chain space. I do 2. You can do 3. You can do 1 if you want a tighter gap in your corners. It all depends on the look you're going for, the project you're doing, the tension you have. So then you're going to do 2 more double crochets. Here is where you're going to start working into stitches again. This is your first stitch here, not here. So right here is your first stitch. Yours may be harder to see depending on your tension. So again, I'm going to just do this slower. We're going to go through this gap on the side, and then you'll have these on top, and then you'll yarn over, and we're back at another corner. One. I only chain 2 most of the time when I do these squares. I'm going to do this next row really slow just to make sure everybody sees what I'm doing. So we're going to work through these into this part here. And you can see the gaps on the side. For each stitch is where you're working. You're going to go through both loops. Like I said in class, if you only go through one, that's a different stitch. So yarn over, through your stitch, yarn over, and we're back to another corner. Oh, got a little ahead of myself there, so 2, not 3, 2. And then we're working into this stitch. So it's always, the stitch is always slightly before the posts. So in there. just like the last one, the corners are your increases. So there's 3, and you do your corner. So the difference in the corners is that you're working 2 instead of 3 into the corners. And again, your stitches are worked into each stitch, so they will increase by 4 every row. If you want to count, here's my top. You start with 3 for your second row. So here we are. So some of you will have started your row in the middle. So this will sort of give you more of an idea of what you're doing. So we're going to start here. You're going to do your chain. And then you're going to work into each stitch. So this is your first one. You're going to go here. Here. Again, it's just the double crochet that we've been doing. There's no new stitches for this. It's just worked into each stitch instead of done in clusters.
Whoa. I forgot how heavy them buckets are.
Yeah. And we're back to a corner. Then your chain space, and then 2 more. And I'm just gonna complete this row. Again, you're working into here. And then 2 in the corner here. Yeah. So we're going to count this row just so you can see what we're doing here. I'm just going to pull some more yarn out. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got another corner. So one thing I said in class is, nice thing about crochet is that it's easy to hide your sins. So if you're counting along your rows and you find that you have 1, maybe 2 stitches more than you need, you can do a decrease, fix your stitch count, or an increase if you have less, like 1 or 2 less stitches. If you start to get to more than like 4 or 5 stitches, it starts to become a little bit noticeable. So you may, that would be, again, everything is up to you what you can live for, but I try to I try to frog, which is what we call ripping stitches. Only if I'm like kind of excessive, if it's noticeable. And like I said, once you get up to like 5 or so stitches off, it starts to become noticeable. So I'm just gonna quickly here, and I'll pull it out because my count is good, I think. Yeah. So you get through your row, and I wouldn't do it on an end so much if you're correcting. So if you have too many stitches and you want to decrease, and you're doing double crochets, you yarn over like normal. You go through your stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over. So you're doing a decrease. So this time what you're going to do is you're going to go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. So when you go through your next, you'll only have 1 stitch for those 2. Increases are easy. You just do another double crochet in the same stitch. If you have to do a couple, like if you have to do 2, I would go a couple stitches in, do 1, do a couple more stitches, like do the next third, do your next increase. Same with decreases, try to space them out. Try to space them out evenly, hides your sins a little more. So back to finishing this row. Again, we're on the 3rd row, so you would have 7 stitches. So there's your 7, and then you're in your corner. There we go. And your chain space. So if you're unsure here, I always like to stop when I get to my finish for this, and I have to count. I go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because I have the 2 extra in the corner. So I have 2 extra in the corner here. So I have 7, 8, 9. So I need 2 more here. So your rows now are at 11. And again, just so you can see, it's through here. There's 2 loops over the top. And there we go. And then you just close her up, just like before. There we go. Every row is worked like that. Like I said, your stitches increase by 4 each row if you want to keep count. It's up to you how many rows you do, and like I said in class, I'd like if you made 1, maybe 2 to bring with you. If this is not the square that you want to use for a project, just make the 1, make sure you have a handle of working into stitches. Otherwise, you can keep making the granny squares you want. Have a great day.